Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Lit Life Show. So excited to be here with you today to talk about the top 3 inner child wounds that healers are struggling with and how you can heal for more self-love and success. Welcome to everyone on the recording. Please say hi to me in the comments. Let me know that you're there, and I look forward to catching up with you. And let's see who's going to join me here live today. Please say hi to me in the comments. I see some of you are already here with me. That's wonderful. Since Facebook introduced this shitty live producer last year, it's always a big question. Can I see the comments? Is the live even working? So please comment. Let me know that you're here. And yeah, I really look forward to this live today because in working with so many women over the years, these 3 wounds are coming up again and again for us spiritual, big-hearted, soulful women. And it's just so important that we talk about it and that we find out how we can heal. So I'm going to give you tons of tips and tricks and practices here. And I really look forward to this session. Good. Not seeing any comments yet. Let me know if you're here. So if not, I'm going to open this up on my phone so I can see the comments there, so that we can dive in soon. And while I'm doing that, I would love for you to tell me what the inner child is for you. How would you describe the inner child? Aha, I can see some comments there when I open up another browser, but I can't see them live. Well, that's okay. That's okay. I will check the comments on my phone. Hi, Anne-Marie. Welcome. How are you today? Hi, Chris. Beautiful to have you here as well. Chris is one of my wonderful apprentices, finishing her apprenticeship at the moment. Hi, Sherry. Same for Sherry. Beautiful to have you here as well. Yeah, Chris and Sherry, I'm sure this is going to sound familiar to you because these inner child wounds have been coming up for us in the apprenticeship session. So we've been talking about this. Really important stuff. Hi, Danielle. Wonderful to have you here as well. One of my new apprentices. Beautiful. Okay, at least I can see the comments in the other browser. So I'm going to make sure to check there regularly. And for now, let's dive in. Now, the inner child represents all of the different child versions of yourself that are still alive and active in you today. And many of them live in your subconscious, right? That means that you are not aware of them most of the time. Excuse my voice. It's very damp here in the jungle. And my voice is still getting used to that because I'm talking so much, obviously, doing my work. But I'm going to use this moment to show you my wonderful jungle paradise here. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? This is what I wake up to every morning. I'm so blessed. Yeah. But dampness. Still getting used to that for sure. So excuse the coughing. Okay. So how does the inner child even get created, right? Well, when we were hurt as children, we often didn't have the capacity to process that at the time. And so part of us froze in time and is still waiting today for whatever it didn't get at the time, right? So that it can heal, whether that's love or attention or respect or whatever it might be. And when our parents, also others that were, that were close to us, but mostly our parents, when they reacted to us with stress or overwhelm or anger, or just ignored a particular aspect of us over a longer period, then we concluded that it's wrong for us to be like that. We concluded that part of who we were wasn't welcome to those we love. And so we discarded it. We put that part of who we are just out of sight, but it is still there as the child shadow. And the inner child is also where we hold the sadness and the grief that we were not able to express at that time over the loss of those parts of who we were, right? And all of the other traumatic things that have happened around us. So if we become aware of the shadow child and heal that wound, then we can access what's beneath and reconnect to our innate playfulness and sweetness and innocence and curiosity, joy, flow, creativity, aliveness, unconditional love, and uniqueness, right? So all of these childhood versions have that sun aspect, which I was just describing, that's underneath, and the shadow aspect. And we need to address the shadow aspect first, right? This is how the wound is expressing itself, so that we can access and live the sun aspect that's underneath, okay? So, for example, if you were scolded for singing and playing too loudly as a child repeatedly and severely, then you might have started to fear expressing yourself freely, right? So you started to suppress the sun aspect of joyful self-expression, and you created the shadow aspect of hiding your uniqueness. So if today you can heal that wound of not being appreciated for self-expression, then you can access the sun aspect underneath and start to feel the fulfillment that comes from expressing yourself fully, and attract those into your life who are going to celebrate you for doing that, right? And when we don't deal with these wounds, however, right, then they get triggered by the people who are in our life now in the present, again and again. For example, being rejected by potential clients that mirror how you were rejected by your teachers, or how you felt rejected by your teachers, right? Like finding your unique calling requires you to feel worthy of your own uniqueness. It requires the courage to do soul searching. And we need to step out of our comfort zones if we want to do the work that we were born to do. But many of us self-sabotage because our inner child is scared, because as children we felt rejected for who we were, right? So who knows this feeling? Like fear holding you back from doing something that is daring, but that you know is necessary for your own fulfillment. Hi, Margaret. Lovely to have you here as well. The guiding force that holds the keys. Yeah, the inner child definitely is a key to a lot of things. I totally agree, Chris. Or another example would be not receiving enough money from your calling because your parents were withholding. So if there's not enough money coming into your life, your inner child probably feels unworthy of it. It's a perfect example from my own life. Like my dad would always earn well, but he didn't see that. He didn't realize that. He doesn't to this day know that he's actually really abundant. And he was not happy to share his money with me and my brothers. So he would like go on vacations alone with his girlfriend and leave us with a babysitter, stuff like that. So I had to start to work when I was 15 because, because he didn't give me money to buy even school stuff and things like that. And I just obviously developed a wound from that of not feeling worthy of receiving money, because I had to, I literally had to do stuff for him, like extra chores and things, although I already had so many responsibilities in the household. For him to give me money or whatever else I needed. It was kind of ridiculous. And that's why I really always had to struggle with earning money. Like I was good at it, but I always had to work really hard, and I always had to do something that, shouldn't have been asked of me. So that was my pattern, and inner child healing really helped me to heal that wound. And once I did, I just started to earn more and more, and from authentic self-expression, not from working hard in a job that, wasn't actually, that where I couldn't express myself, that wasn't living up to my potential. So who else knows what I'm talking about here? Another example would be not daring to show up with your unique gifts as a healer for fear of being ridiculed like you were by your peers in school. Maybe that's what happened for you. Or maybe you struggle to get clarity on your healing mission and you're still stuck in a 9-to-5 and your true calling feels forever out of reach. And if you're not living your calling, then your inner child probably feels it's not safe for you. So what comes to mind as I say this? How do you get triggered by your inner child today? Sherry says that was definitely me. I didn't know money was even for me until about 3 years ago. Yeah, there you go. Really feel you, love. Chris says, yes, at times the fear is like a block wall. Currently, I'm breaking the fear that I received from my childhood. Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well. Yeah, so everyone can relate in one form or another. So the great thing about these wounds getting triggered, though, is that it's a chance to realize that there is something deeper than the present situation going on, right? And that something inside of us needs healing. So as painful as it is to get triggered, it's also a chance for healing, right? And because it's really like that, most of what we continue to struggle with over a longer period of time goes back to inner child wounds. And working closely with hundreds of women over the years, I've really found that the inner child is often the key to lasting transformations and healings. And I really can't stress enough how important it is to work with your inner child, and not as a one-off thing, you know, like once a year you make an effort. No, it's like a continuous dedication. And it's just so important to see and hold and comfort and love all of the little children that are inside of us that really need us. It's really like stepping into this parenting role for ourselves, into this mothering role for ourselves. And that is something that is really powerful and can really help us to get to a whole new level of self-love and success. So the inner child is really a big part of who you are now, and it holds a lot of your potential. And she often seems like the obstacle, but she really is the key, okay? She is expressing herself. You know, whether you work with her or not, she is expressing herself, right? And she will always express the wound if you don't tend to it. Always the shadow side, because that's what gets your attention. And only when the wound is tended to will the sun child come out to play. And then she will open up to talk with you and collaborate with you and create healing and incredible experiences for the both of you. Now, over the years, in working closely with all of these women, I've really found that there are 8 themes around which inner child work evolves, but 3 of them are the most prominent ones in healers, and I want to talk about those right now. And most healers really have all of those 3 wounds that we're going to be talking about. Now, the first one we've already touched upon is the fear wound, right? It's I am not safe. And this is not just for healers. This is a very prominent wound in our societies as well. Like, look at everything that was going on with COVID, right? This is touching upon the fear wound of humanity itself. And the fear wound, especially for us as healers, it comes from trauma and uncertainty in our childhood, specifically violence. And it creates a root crown chakra disturbance, a root crown chakra imbalance, which means that the root chakra is underactive and the crown chakra is overactive. And that leads us to not being grounded enough in the 3D, right? That leads us to having amazing spiritual experiences, but to manifest things, concrete things into the 3D is difficult, like manifesting our calling in the form of concrete offerings and clients who pay for our services and enough money coming in. Well, who feels spoken to here? Hi, Amber, welcome. Now, I'd love for you to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 here, because it's really important to get clarity first. Before we can heal, we always need more clarity. Awareness is always the first step in any transformational process. So how active is the fear wound inside of you on a scale from 1 to 10? 1 would be, I feel super safe and I'm so good at manifesting what I want and I'm swimming in money. And 10 would be, I am scared a lot and ungrounded and I seem to attract drama all the time and I struggle financially. Where are you at on that scale? And if you want to share, please do in the comments. Sherry is at a 2. Yay! That's from all of the good work in the apprenticeship. I love hearing that. Anna Marie and Tarsha, 7, 8. Okay, it's good to be aware of it. Really good first step, being honest with yourself. That's great. And the next wound is the rejection wound. This evolves around I am not wanted, I am not loved. Okay? And this comes from neglect and being criticized as a child, not seen and not feeling loved for who you are. And that created a feeling of unworthiness, of I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I don't deserve XYZ, feeling guilty, needing to meet other people's expectations. It's this I should thing. It leads you to overgive, always give, 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 and that creates scarcity in your life. You don't know how to receive in return. And it can also lead you to hiding, right? Not showing up as who you really are and what you can do in the world, and struggling with self-love. Now, who recognizes this fear in themselves? That was definitely me for a long time. Like, my dad was super not ready to become a father by the time I was born. He was very young, younger than my mom. And I have, like, working with my inner child over the years, I have gone back to scenes from when I was a baby and even in utero, where my parents were intensely fighting. Basically, my mom taking responsibility for me and for the money and for everything, and my dad just being super overwhelmed. And he continued to do that as I was growing up. And later, when my mom died and I had to take care of my brothers, he was just, giving all the responsibility to me and criticizing me at the same time. So I definitely did not feel good enough. I felt guilty all the time. I repeated this cycle later with my son's dad, who was really emotionally very abusive towards me, and I didn't even realize it for years. And he always made me feel guilty about everything, although I was giving everything to him. And I did the same thing with my clients in the beginning of my business. Like, I offered everything for free or for a pittance, and still people would complain about stuff. And I would feel like, oh my God, I have to give more. And I would feel super stressed, and I would hide the imperfect parts of myself. And I was definitely struggling with self-love. So how active is that wound inside of you? One would be, not at all. I feel more than enough. I feel so loved. I deserve the very best. I love myself so much. And 10 would be, I feel not good enough. I feel unworthy of what I want. I don't love myself, and I don't feel like I deserve the best. Hi, Valerie. Welcome. And share it with us if you want to, what comes up for you here. It's great if you can show yourself authentically wherever you are at right now. It's a great first step towards accepting and loving yourself, even just admitting where you are at with this wound. Valerie says 8. It's great. Great, you can be honest there. Kristen Conchetta is 6. Yeah, we still have some work to do there, ladies. Good, but that's what we're here for, right? That's all good. And the third one is the disconnection wound, okay? And this also comes from various forms of childhood trauma, and especially from emotional abuse or hardship, leading to like not feeling yourself, not knowing your deepest self, disconnection from your heart and soul, and therefore also from your purpose, right? So this leads you to not being able to fully step into your mission, even getting clarity on it. You might even already offer services, but they don't feel like it's you, you just struggle to get to the core, to the essence of who you are. And you might also experience difficulty with setting healthy boundaries if you suffer from the disconnection wound. So you might have clients that cross your boundaries because you don't make clear what you are available for, what you're not available for. And of course, this happens with partners, with children, everyone. So who does this resonate with? And where are you at with that wound? Like, one would be, I have zero clarity on my healing mission. I feel so disconnected from my heart and soul and spirit, and I just can't set healthy boundaries, and my boundaries are constantly overstepped. And 10 would be, I'm crystal clear on my healing mission. It feels so connected to my heart and soul and spirit, and I'm really good at setting boundaries for myself. Let's get some clarity there. This one is tougher, says Sherry. I had to do a lot of work on who I really am. Yeah, I know. And it's been such a pleasure watching you grow in that aspect in the apprenticeship. It's just been so amazing how you are just taking this program in your stride and really soaring. Love seeing you like this. Yeah, Chris is saying this is what you're struggling with in the circle around me. Yeah, this one is just a really big one in our society in general as well, right? We all live in the mind and in the body, and we are not taught how to live from the heart and connected to our soul and our soul mission, to the reason why we incarnated here in the first place. And that's really difficult growing up like this in Western societies, where we are taught to mostly appreciate what's outside, right? What's manifested, what is materialistic. And then having the spiritual awakening and realizing that, oh my goodness, it all starts on the inside. I constantly manifest my life. Everything outside is just a mirroring back to me what's going on inside. And being connected to myself spiritually and emotionally, that is what is actually really healing and gonna help me step into my power. Okay, that realization comes, but then how do you go about it, right? This is exactly why I teach manic journeying, because it is the most powerful way to do that. The old stories come up easily, says Valerie. Give too much of my valuable energy away. I feel you so much. Like in the apprenticeship, the first 3 weeks, what we focus on is really learning how to flow out of your mind and into your heart, and how to protect your personal energetic space. It is just so important. Danielle shares, used to be in an abusive relationship as well, no boundaries at all, used to give. I feel you so much from what you shared in the apprenticeship with me. Your story resonates so much with my own. I absolutely know what that's like. I really feel you, sister. Good. So now that we have that clarity, it's really time for the next step. The clarity was the first step, right? The awareness around where we are at. And the next step for all 3 of the wounds is the same. It's re-establishing trust with your inner child. Because most of us have neglected our inner child for so long that our inner child doesn't trust us anymore, right? So the first step is really saying, hey, I'm here, I'm available, I hear you, I see you, I want to be there for you, right? And the easiest way to do that is super simple but super powerful. So absolutely do this. Find a picture of yourself as a child that you really feel represents the version of your inner child that you most struggle with right now, and that most needs your attention and love right now. And then put it somewhere really prominent in your house. Like I recommend next to your bed, where you always see it every morning and evening. And really let her know that you're there and willing to take care of her, and ask her what she needs. Ask her what she needs. And then, you don't force any answers to come to you. But if you do that every evening and every morning, just reconnecting from your heart to your inner child and asking that question, what do you need? How can I take care of you? And just leaving it open-ended, during the day, the inspiration is going to come to you, and you're going to find beautiful ways to take care of that part of yourself. Good. Let me know if that makes sense, if you have questions about it. And then we're going to go into specific practical steps and practices for the 3 wounds. Chris says, you had an encounter with 2 people from my childhood, and it's helped my heart and my soul to become more one. That's beautiful. I love that. That's really, really important. I just, last week, I had a talk with my dad for the first time ever. I just turned 30. I moved out when I was 18. And for the first time, I have talked to my dad about what was going on in my childhood. Because my dad and I have a good relationship, but it's sort of a little bit on the surface, because we never talk about how traumatic everything was. When my mom died, he just stopped talking about her when she died, and it was like she never existed. And my brothers were only 4 and 1, so they basically grew up without her presence physically, right? But also without her memory, which is just really sad. And for me, it was even more difficult because, well, I remembered her so well. And then he never talked about her. And when he talked about her, it was negatively, which was obviously, self-protection. But I didn't know that at the time, obviously, as a child. And he gave me way too much responsibility. And so I've really felt that coming up would lose that a lot. We moved to Bali together. We wanted to co-live and co-parent. I organized these two houses next to each other so that would work. And then he started to be really, really aggressive with his son, who he refused to take care of for years and years, and then went to court and wanted full custody of him, although, he didn't care all those years. And after all of that, I still made that effort, to involve him in our lives and paid for his visa to come here and everything. And then he started to be really aggressive with Lou, screaming at him and even hitting him. And when that happened, I had to throw him out of the house. And then, I still wanted to give him a chance. I was like, you know what? You can see him twice a week for short visits so he feels safe, so you maintain a connection, so you can rebuild this trauma that you've caused in him. You can rebuild the relationship, heal the trauma. And he refused, he was like, no, I can't take of him regularly. He doesn't work. So I cut him off financially, and now I also cut off contact, and it feels really good. And that was all in line with me reaching out to my dad and saying, you know what happened in my childhood is still affecting me today, even after all this healing that I've done. And it's just really, really important for me to talk to you about this. And for years, I was kind of hoping he would start that conversation and just say sorry. I knew he did the best he could, right? I don't have any resentment towards him. I have forgiven him. But it would have just been really nice for him to say, you know what happened in your childhood wasn't okay. I did my best, but I'm really sorry for causing you a lot of pain. That would have been really nice. That's what I do with my son when I fuck up. I say, I'm sorry, Lou. Sorry I screamed. It wasn't because of you. I'm just tired. That's what it should be like, right? But it wasn't. And sometimes we have been patient enough, we have done enough waiting, we have accepted enough, and it's time to set clear boundaries. And in doing that with my dad, it was easier to do it with Lou's dad. So it's just really, really important to realize how we are recreating the same patterns that we've gone through in our childhood, in our present day life, and how we can go back to the childhood wound, heal that, and therefore what happens in our life now is going to shift as well, which is just really, really powerful. Good. Yeah, you're so welcome. I think it's really important to share about these things. Conchetta, your inner child has been coming up. Yeah, absolutely. You've been sharing about that. And it's beautiful. When your inner child is showing up like this and you have the realization that it already means that you're doing the first step, right? You've already created the awareness around it. Your inner child already trusts you enough to be seen. Good, so now let's go into specific practical steps and practices for the 3 wounds. Now, the first one is fear, right? And this one, to heal from the fear wound, it is really important that you work with your roots and your crown chakra to balance them. I have a whole series on chakra balancing and healing. I can really, really recommend that one. It is so, so powerful. Because the root chakra is really the key to feeling more safe in the 3D, right? It's all about our physical safety. And if we have experienced a lot of trauma, it brings us into the reptilian brain, into the fight or flight mode. And that's about pure existence, pure survival. And even then, I can feel this sometimes still coming up from my childhood. Like when my son spills something or breaks something, my instant reaction would be to go into complete panic, like triggering those moments in my childhood when, for example, my brother ran against the door and he had blood all over his face, and I was 9 years old and no one else was at home and I had to deal with it, right? And he was 1, right? These kinds of situations are then triggered in me, and with the awareness, I can be like, okay, take a deep breath. It is just juice on the floor, and it's nothing, that you need to panic about right now. But I need to remind myself, because I automatically go into the fight or flight. My reptilian brain gets activated, and that is the fear wound, right? That's that coming up. So it's really, really important to work with our root chakra so that we can feel safe, so that when these kinds of things happen, it doesn't trigger the really traumatic stuff, right? And And do grounding. Grounding is so important, right? Connecting with Mother Earth, like go outside more, go barefoot outside, hug a tree, have crystals around you and flowers, so many different ways to connect to Mother Earth and feel grounded. And what I also really recommend for the fear wound, which is so powerful, is making 2 different lists. And the first one, sit down, meditate before, right? Do some practice that centers you in yourself, in your heart space. And then write down what makes you feel unsafe, like all the things that make you feel unsafe. And then look at that list and color them in 2 different, have 2 different colors, right? So one color is for everything on the list that you can avoid, that is avoidable, right? And then just phase that out of your life. And the other things, the other color is for what you have to face. Because some things that trigger fear, that make us feel unsafe, they're actually easy to avoid if we just choose to, if we find other ways to deal with that situation. But other things, we have to face the fear, like me needing to talk to my dad. I was really afraid of it, but I had to face that fear, right? So be honest with yourself there, and then face the fears that you have to face, and avoid what the other things that you can avoid, that you don't need to face, that make you feel unsafe. And then make a second list. And the second list is everything that makes you feel safe. And then prioritize that, right? What makes you feel safe? And then make sure that more of that happens. Good. Let me know if that makes sense and if that's helpful before we move on to the next one. I'm not seeing any more comments coming up, but I see many of you are there live. So let me know if you're still here in the comments. Everything's still good. Man, Facebook is tough sometimes, I'm telling you. Okay, everything seems to be good. Now the comments are coming in. Yes, helpful, clear, yes. Okay, beautiful. Love hearing that. Okay. Now, if you have questions coming up at any time, please let me know, yeah? Okay, so what to do about the rejection wound? Here you really need to prioritize boosting your self-love. Like this goes from elaborate self-care, self-love meditations, for example, affirmation practices. And the really simple one would be to just say, I love you every time that you look in the mirror. I love this one. It is so simple. We walk, like how many times do you go past the mirror a day and then what do? You might put some makeup on your face, or you might check if everything is looking okay. You might do your hair. But how many times do you actually see yourself when you look in the mirror? So make this a practice. See yourself and tell yourself that you love yourself. And even if it doesn't feel real in the beginning, it will if you just continue to do it. And another thing that I love to do for the rejection wound is it's like paying attention to your thinking, paying attention to your thoughts as you go about your day. And when you detect a negative thought about yourself, right? Like, I don't know, could be simple things like, oh my God, I'm so distracted today, or I'm such a klutz. It could be harmless, things like that, but this is still conditioning yourself in a negative way, right? And it could, of course, be much worse. Like, oh my God, I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or gosh, look at whatever, like so many things. Like my son is not even 5 yet, and he already starts to doubt his worthiness in some situations, through situations that happened with his father, obviously with me as well, through school. This is something that happens really, really early on. And all we can do now when we're already adults is tend to our inner child in that way and really tell ourselves that we love ourselves, because most of us just didn't hear that enough growing up, right? So when you feel that you have a negative thought coming up about yourself, replace it with a positive one. So if you're saying, oh my God, I'm such a klutz, and be like, it's okay, I'm just tired, I'm just tired, I'm not a klutz, I'm really graceful. Actually, I'm really graceful. I'm just a bit tired today. Like, just really find the truth in the opposite of the negative thing that you're saying about yourself. That is a really, really powerful practice. And if you make it a habit, it can change so many things in your life. Because how you think about yourself, how you talk about yourself, that's also going to be mirrored back to you by the people around you, right? Good. And yeah, let me know in the comments if all of this makes sense, if you have questions. Yeah, mirror work is powerful and transforming, says Chris. Absolutely. You love your lists, and it's good to mark them off too. Absolutely. No self-criticism. Exactly. Like, this is also something like I noticed that I'm critical of my son often, and that just mirrors back to me how critical I am of myself. And it's something that's difficult to detect in myself nowadays, because I know I used to be like that a lot, and nowadays it is much more subtle in expressing itself, but it's still there in some ways. So whenever I realize I'm critical of someone else, well, I come back to myself and I'm like, okay, how am I critical of myself, you know? And coming back to myself and being loving towards myself then really helps me to be loving towards other people as well. Good. Now, what do we do for the disconnection wound? Here, the most important thing is to practice opening your heart space and setting healthy boundaries. Okay? Now, this is literally what we focus on in the first 3 weeks of the apprenticeship. So everyone who is in the apprenticeship, if you need to go back to week 1 to 3, there's nothing wrong about that. That can actually be really, really important. So just talk to me about where you're at, and we can talk about how to go about it in the best way. And this is also how you get much closer to your soul's purpose, right? And if you're struggling with this, and if you're not yet in the apprenticeship, then absolutely come to the next Shamanic Yoga Initiation, my beautiful 5-day live event for new aspiring and seasoned healers who want to step into their next level of power, purpose, and prosperity, which is going to start really soon on June 3rd, which is June 2nd in the US. And there you're going to have a chance of joining the apprenticeship too, and I'm going to share a lot more about it. And as a first step, what I really recommend if you're feeling yourself caught in the disconnection wound is my practice out of the mind into the heart. Really, really beautiful first step to open your heart space more. Because you cannot set healthy boundaries if you don't feel yourself first, right? So this is really, really the first step. This is going to be the preparation practice for the initiation, and I'm going to put it into guide 1 here in the group. Guides are now what used to be units before on Facebook. So I'm going to create that guide. I can already do it today, actually. I'm going to put that practice in there so you can start practicing and healing your inner child in that way too. And of course, like, what you can do then, right, after all of these practices and practical things to do, the most important thing, of course, is the deep healing, right? Shamanic healing is what I really recommend, to go deep and heal all the way, heal all of your little shadow children at the soul level. And that's why I want to offer you my Inner Child Healing Series. Those are 8 healing sessions that you get for the price of just 1 healing session, which is pretty amazing in itself. But today you have something else that is really, really cool. You get 30% off of that already little investment if you are amongst the first 30 to buy it. And that's actually because I turned 30 recently, not so long ago. And every time on my birthday, I do this discount thing, which is always really, really fun. Like last year, it was 29% off for the first 29. This year, 30% for the first 30. So you have a unique code that you need to use to take advantage of that offer. Definitely check it out. I'm going to put it into the comments for you. Good. Let me know if you can see it. Facebook is really weird with offerings at the moment. Then it just labels every post as something, like a marketplace post. It's like, what? No. So absolutely check that out. And, the amazing thing about this series is that you're going to be able to use it again and again, because every time you work through it, you can address a different aspect of your inner child, right? And it's probable that you're going to start with older versions of your inner child, of yourself, right? So the teenage years maybe. And later on, you might go all the way back to what needs to be healed from your time as a baby and even in utero. So it is really, really, really powerful stuff. So take advantage of this amazing offer. You won't regret it. Let me know if you have any questions about what we have covered today before I share about what's going to happen here next week, which I'm really excited about, in the next session of Lilith's live show. And if you have questions as you are on the replay, please pop them into the comments as well, and I'm going to follow up with you there and then. Now next week, same time, same place, I'm going to hold a session for you that is a really important foundational session for the upcoming Shamanic Yoga initiation. It's called the 10 Signs of a Shamanic Calling. As you are called into this group, you are probably experiencing a shamanic calling, but we want to make absolutely sure. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to explore your shamanic calling. We're going to talk about shamanism and shamanic journeying. Really, really exciting session. And I'm sure it's going to be really eye-opening for many of you. So absolutely make sure to not miss it. Same time, same place next week. And then we're already going to dive into the initiation the week after that. So exciting. Okay, gonna wait a few more minutes to see if you have questions about what we covered today or any more sharings. There we go. Now I can. Now the comments are showing up as we are ending. I'm telling you, technical stuff, huh? Oh, you are so welcome, everyone. I'm happy this was helpful. Let me just check if there's any new comments or questions. Okay. Good. If anything comes up later, I'm really happy to answer anything. And now I'm going to go for a swim in this beautiful jungle paradise. And I hope you have something amazing planned for the day. If you're in the US, then I wish you a beautiful night and sweet dreams. And I can't wait to see you here again next week. Mwah. Lots of love to all of you and all of your little children. Bye for now.